Okay, so now you kind of see why I'm using these notes instead of the other one. They didn't put these out. These are the ones I used for my high school kids. And they didn't put the 6th grade out till July 1st. So I already started doing stuff. But I like these better because the warm-up is right here. I don't have to flip back and forth or anything. So what I would like you to do right now is I would like you to work these 3 problems. Okay. Pause the video, work them. Okay, so you've been doing this since you were a kid, right? The answer is 7. You've been doing 12 minus 8. You've been doing these since 3rd grade, 7th grade. Okay, but then if I come over here, I can also write it this way. Isn't 9 minus 2 7, and the sign of the bigger is there? 12 minus 8 is 4, right? Okay, so if I think about this as a number line, I'm starting at a -7, and I'm going left a -1, so that would put me, because I'm going left, so that would put me at a -8. This one's a little harder. But I can change the minus to a plus a minus. And so then it turns all of these problems into addition problems. And so then everything we've been doing, where we've been doing our adding, you just change them all into adding problems. And I know this sounds silly, but when you get into high school, you're going to use this a lot because then you don't have to memorize, you're going to have to memorize all these different rules. You can just remember the 2 rules we've learned. If the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. If the signs are different, you subtract and take the sign of the bigger absolute value. Okay, so what we're going to do, instead of subtracting, we're going to add its opposite. Okay, so if we start at 8 and we subtract 5, we end up at 3, right? Okay, but if I do 8 plus a -3, my signs are different. I subtract and keep the sign of the bigger. Oh, it's a 5. Shoot. So 8 plus a -5, I get the same answer. Okay, so I get the same answer. So they like to use this silly phrase. I don't use it in high school. I don't, I guess, quite understand it. Me and phrases aren't always the best. So to use the phrase KISS to help rewrite a subtraction problem, so you keep it and then you switch. Okay, so you switch plus a minus, you change it to switch. So I just remember, honestly, I remember this up here. KISS is too difficult for me to remember. So I just remember to add its opposite. So you're going to hear me say add its opposite. You're not going to hear me say KISS. Because then when you get to high school, you're going to say KISS in a class and they're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? So I just remember to add its opposite. Okay, so if I look at this, we're going to rewrite this as a sum. Oops, so this is just 10 plus a -8. Okay, this is a -1 plus a -6. Okay, I would like you to pause the video. I'm not even finding answers right now. I'm just rewriting it. That's all I'm doing right now is just rewriting them. So pause and do those 4. So this would be 17 plus a -2, 5 plus a +8. Okay, because a minus actually turns into a positive. Okay, so here, same thing, a -4 plus a +3. I'm adding its opposite. And this would be 2 plus 13. I'm adding its opposite. Okay, so I would like you to try 10 through 13. You're matching them A, B, C, D. So if I do that rule, I'm saying 8 plus the opposite. So 8 plus 2, so this is B. I'm adding the opposite. So 8 plus a -2 is D. And then a -8 plus, add the opposite, a -2 would be A. That one's tricky because this 2 is positive, right? When you subtract, you're adding the opposite. And then the next one would be a negative 8 plus, the opposite is a positive 2. I don't really need the parentheses, not really sure why I wrote them, but that would be C. Okay, so when it's a subtraction problem, I'm going to add the opposite. So my answer is 5. I would have more yellows than red. And on this one, I'm going to add the opposite. So I have more reds, I have more negatives, so I subtract those, and my answer is a negative 7. Here, I'm going to add the opposite. So now my signs are the same. So I have all reds. 5 reds and 5 reds would give me a negative 10. I owe 10. And here, I'm going to add the opposite. So they're both negative, so I'm going to add them together and keep the sign. Okay, so let's do a couple more. So on this one, I'm going to add the opposite. So it was a negative 6, so my signs are different. I'm going to subtract, and the bigger value is the 7. There's 7 reds, so it's a negative 1. And on this one, I'm going to add the opposite. So I have 14 reds and 14 yellows. They would all cancel each other out, and my answer is 0. Okay, so what I would like you to do right now is I would like you to do 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I would like you to pause the video, and I would like you to work those. So on 20, I'm going to add the opposite, right? So it's a positive 12, so it's going to become a negative 12. And so my answer would be a negative, because there's more reds, a negative 10. So on this one, I'm going to add the opposite. So now those are all yellow chips. They're all positive, so my answer is 16. Nothing cancels. Negative 11, I'm going to add the opposite. Plus or minus. So those are the same sign, so it's going to be a negative 35. Here, I'm going to add the opposite. So a negative becomes a positive, basically, and my answer is 37. And on this one, a negative 19, I'm going to add the opposite. So now this one, kids always want to tell me 0, but it's not. You have 19 reds and 19 reds. None of those cancel. You end up with a negative 38. And then here, I'm going to add the opposite. You have 10 yellows and 28 reds. So there's going to be a bunch that cancel off. 10 of them cancel off, and you're left with a negative 18. Okay, so on 26, you can't do the sign, so we're going to do this side. So if I rewrite this, I'm going to add the opposite. So this is a negative 5. And then I'm going to do this side. I'm going to add the opposite. And so that would be a negative 3. So now if you think about this on a number line, here's 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Negative 3 is closer to 0, so negative 3 is greater than. Okay, I would like you to pause the video, and I would like you just to work this very last problem. See if you can figure it out. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to add the opposite. So this side is 24, and here I'm going to add the opposite. So this is a negative 23. So the positive number is definitely bigger. Okay, so you have a lot of homework. If this is really confusing, this is a really important concept. So after you get done with all of this homework, and if you're like, well, I just still don't get it, please let me know so that I can send you some more stuff to work on with this.